Hi, Caroline. Thanks for joining. And I'm really glad that you were able to make some time to come on the channel and answer some of the questions that I have. I'm sure after watching this whole session, a lot of the people will have very good clarity in their mind why they should choose University of Hertfordshire and what all things are there for them to explore. So before we get started, can you please give us a brief intro about you?
Hi, Roshan. Thank you for inviting me today. Pleased to be talking about the MSc Data Science from the University of Hertfordshire. So my name's Carolyn Devereux. Until last week, I was the program leader for the MSc Data Science at the University of Hertfordshire, but I am the subject group lead for data science. And so I have an overview of the MSc Data Science, the BSc Data Science, and we've also just started a BSc Data Science apprenticeship as well.
That's good to know. So I think the first step that students take is to start with the admission process. So I would like to understand how the admission process works and what is the ideal time that a student should start applying for a course. So for example, if a course is starting in September 2026, so what should be the time frame that they should start applying and preparing their profile and SOP and things like that?
Okay, so we have three. So from this year, we're going to have three entries in September for semester A, in January for semester B, and then in May for semester C. So we're starting a semester C intake. Normally, it depends how many applicants, I suppose, but normally we get a lot. So like if you were starting in September, you want to apply well before June. So at least, so really you should be thinking about it 6 months, 3 months at the minimum, I would have thought. Because by the time you've applied, got your place, then you've got to apply for visas if you're an international student, and that takes time, and organise somewhere to live when you come here. So there's quite a lot of things to organise that take time beforehand.
Yeah, I agree to that. Yeah. And how much time usually takes for the university to get back to students with an offer or rejection, whatever the decision is?
Yeah, not normally quite quickly, probably within a few weeks.
Right? That's good.
Maybe quicker, and that might depend on if you're just got sort of standard degree, then that would be a nice simple decision on admissions. But we also so if you've done a computer science degree or a maths degree or physics degree or something in STEM, then that's a nice easy decision. But you may have a lot of work experience in coding or in IT or something that's relevant, but your degree might have been in something that's non-STEM like geography or economics.
Yeah.
Something like that. And we do take students with those non-STEM degrees as well. So our MSc Data Science is a conversion course.
Right.
So we assume you haven't done any coding. So we have our first course is a boot camp on the first semester, just to kick off your coding and help with some maths skills and statistics skills that you need for data science. And so we teach programming from the beginning. We give you some of the basic maths that you'll need and statistics all in that first semester. And then in the second semester, we move on to teaching more exciting things like machine learning and sort of data mining.
That's good to know, because this is one of the biggest concerns that most of the students have, because sometimes people come from non-STEM background, as you mentioned, and they have this thing in their mind that whether they will be able to pick these things up because they have no experience in programming and they don't have a lot of maths knowledge and things like that. And as we know, data science and machine learning, deep learning, the backbone is all maths. So they think that it could be very difficult for them, but it's good to know that university is taking care of those things as well for students who are not really that experienced in those things.
Yeah, I think that's one of the differences between like we at the University of Hertfordshire, we also offer an MSc Data Science and Analytics, whereas that course is more for STEM students who have enough maths and done some coding and are extending their knowledge into data science, whereas the MSc Data Science is a conversion course.
Right.
And so we help the first semester really, if you've done a bit of coding and you've got the maths, then the first semester could be quite a nice sort of gentle introduction to data science. If you're new to coding and maybe your maths is rusty, it could mean that first semester is a very fast pace to learn. So we teach you all the things you need to know, but it will be at a fast pace.
And it's understandable, I think, because if a course is, let's say, 1 year course, and when a university has to cover so many things in just that time frame, and we all know that data science is a very vast field, it has to have certain pace. So there has to be a good commitment from student side as well. So totally makes sense. Now the question is how often the curriculum is updated. So we all know that data science evolves so quickly. So how often the curriculum is updated?
So we have standard processes within the university to change courses if they're large changes. So if we wanted to change modules, they tend to be a bit slower to change things. So that might take us a year to change something. On the data science course, every year we review what we're doing. We're changing some of our content, the algorithms that we teach, or for example, agentic AI is the latest thing, and so we're introducing some of that into our courses, so into some of our modules, so that students coming in now will be getting some of that taught to them at some point through their course. So we do review it regularly.
Yeah.
At the end of each module, we consider what needs to happen. We've just changed our course so that we used to have an individual project that was a large part of the course. We now changed that to a sort of a smaller. So it was a 60 credit module. So now we're going to have a 30 credit module that's a group project. So looking at teamwork and communication, because they're two things I think are really important in the job market.
I agree. Yeah.
Communication, teamwork, knowing how to code and develop code together as a team is really important. So we're now going to have a group project, but the other 30 credits is going to be data science or data analytics with AI. So this is really looking at sort of the new AI stuff coming up.
True. Yeah. No, it's good to know that the university keeps updating the curriculum. And also it's very good to see that there are those group projects and focus on communication skills as well, because I can vouch for that. I've been working in the world of data for almost more than half a decade now. And currently I've been working as a senior data scientist for 2.5 years, where technical skills are very important to build things, but it's equally more important to convey the findings from data science projects to the stakeholders, and especially to those who are non-technical people, because it takes quite a lot of effort to explain them what this is, how it has come to life and things like that. And when you're able to do that, it actually makes a huge difference than just delivering a technical project. So it's really good to see that university is focusing on those things as well. That brings me to the next question, which is, do students get to work on real world projects while they are doing their masters, like maybe in collaboration with companies or just research work that university might be doing? So students get to contribute to those kind of projects. So are there any opportunities like that?
Yes. So in the projects, so some of our students who've been on placement then develop a project with the company that they were on placement with. That might be using some of their data or developing some models or some data analysis technique that could be useful to the company going forward. So we've had some students doing that. In terms of our research, again, there may be some data sets that students could use that are relevant to our research. They may develop a link with a particular lecturer who has a particular research area. We have quite a wide range of different research that happens within our school. At Hertfordshire, the school is the School of physics, engineering, and computer science. So we have all sorts of different things that happen in there, from looking at human computer interactions and robots and aerospace. I'm actually in the Department of Physics, Astronomy and Maths, and I'm an astrophysicist myself, but we do a lot of data science, which is why we're teaching the data science. So we have a lot of data on stars and galaxies and astronomy, but we have maths. So we have got one of our lecturers does data science on looking at text of books. Particularly, he's interested in mythological books and use machine learning to analyze books and texts, and that's very interesting. So you can get involved in all of these areas.
Yeah, that's good to know. And as you mentioned, the nature of the data can be very different from use case to use case, like textual data, image data, and people have different interests. When I started my journey, I was actually very interested in computer vision sort of projects. And as I grew in my career, I'm now more aligned towards natural language processing or textual side of things. So interest shifts. So it's good that university has so many different type of data and a research project that students can choose from and probably learn more about it and see if it is something of their interest. That's good to know. So the next question is around the classes, the number of classes that happens per week. So how often are the classes? How long are the classes? What kind of commitment that students will have to show towards the classroom learning? Because I know there are times where they have to learn things on their own, but how many number of classes are usually there per week?
So in the first semesters, generally 3 days a week, you're expected to be on campus, and you have to attend on campus. That will be normally in the first 2 semesters, you do 3 modules. So across those 3 days, you'll do some lectures and some PC labs for each of those modules. Depending on the size of the module would depend on how many lectures and how many PC labs. But all of our modules have that structure, except for the project one, but all of them have the structure of some lectures, and then the PC labs are there to then practice those skills that you've learned, or practice the skills of coding and understanding of what's been taught in the lectures. So it's a very practical based course, in that there's a lot of time in the labs that students are expected to learn through doing.
Yeah, that's good. Learning through doing is the best thing. I personally follow that quite a lot. The next question is around assessment. So how usually the assessments are carried out? Is it like written exams or project based? How does it work?
Okay, so for students starting from September, or from now onwards, that we don't have any exams in our MSc Data Science course. So the assessments are varied, will include writing reports, some coding, doing coding quizzes, doing some vivas. So with the project module, there's vivas, but some of the other modules may introduce more vivas. Presentations, there's a few presentations and group work, just sometimes discussions. So being able to talk about a subject and assessing your communication skills with discussions.
True, yeah. I personally have seen that when just working on a particular project, we learn good amount of things, but when we actually write reports and present those things, we learn a lot more about the projects that we have done. Because when you are just building code and putting things together, especially these days when ChatGPT can write so much code for you, it becomes so much easier. But when you actually start writing the report, try to explain what you have done, you do a lot more research at that time, and especially when you're preparing for presentations. So it's good that there are those things there in place. The next question is around how many students are usually there in each batch. And the reason I'm asking this question is because I was talking to some of the students, and they were mentioning that there are like 500 students in each batch. And I personally felt like, why there are like so many students? I know the university is quite popular for international students and also other students, but I was like, how do they manage the resources? That's why I wanted to understand from your perspective, usually how many students are there in each batch and how do you manage the cohort?
Okay, so it is a popular course. We
Yeah.
have over 300 students in each cohort. So each semester we have about 300 plus students
Yeah.
join, maybe up sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. So the way we do it, the lectures are all done together. There's one lecture, the students attend, and then the PC labs are in smaller groups. So, and then we have several tutors in the PC labs. So they go around the room and can help and give more one-to-one help for students. So yes, it is. They are big cohorts because it's a popular course. But I think through the PC labs, that's where students can get the individual help, and we make sure there are enough tutors to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's what is more important personally, because if I reflect back on my master's, there were some lectures where it used to happen in like big auditoriums where there are like so many students. But when it came to labs and stuff, there were smaller batches and a good amount of tutors there to answer those questions, because that's where you actually come up with a lot of doubts and you learn. So it's good to see that there are special attentions given to small group of students so that they can make most out of it. So those were some of the questions around like admission and program structure. Now let's move our focus a little bit on the learning environment side of things. So one of the biggest questions that I usually get is that in India, the way the things work is the way the education works is like very much teaching focus. So everything is being taught by the professors. But here, what I've personally seen is that professors will teach you, but then they will also provide you a lot of resources where you can go and learn on your own, and then you can come back with questions and your critical thinking on the things that you have learned. And I personally like this quite a lot because I was able to learn a lot more things in much shorter period of time rather than just sitting in a class and listening to a lot of the lectures. So how accessible professors are? If I have some doubt, I went through the material, I have some issues, are there like one-to-one sessions where I can go and ask my questions and get those things cleared?
Okay, so the lecturers are available at the end of lectures to answer questions, and also within the PC lab sessions. And students can send emails and organise sessions if meet up with those lecturers and tutors if that's necessary, or if they want to do that. We also have a system, we call it our SASH, so our SPECS, our School Academic Support Hub, and there are tutors in there, personal tutors and academic tutors, where students can go along and get one-to-one help on particular issues if there's a particular topic, or they want extra help with their maths. We also have a maths support centre where they can go and get that one-to-one help on particular problems, or again, if they're just feeling that they don't understand the topic, they can go and spend some time. If they need an hour to go and have that explained to them, they can do that as well. And there's also academic support in terms of writing academic reports, referencing. Students will always struggle with referencing.
I can vouch for that. I have struggled myself in my first module. When I came, I was mostly focused on the technical side of things, and I was like, if I do my project to the best quality possible from technical side, I can just finish the report in like 1 day or two and I'll be good. But that's where I went wrong, and I got like really bad score in my first module. And then I realized that no, report takes a lot more effort and more time, and it's actually a lot more important. And after that, I divided the time equally on technical as well as the report writing. So I totally get it, and I had to learn quite a lot.
Yeah. So there's a lot of support for doing those type of skills, as well as access to the lecturer if there's specific content questions that people.
That's good to know. Yeah, because those kind of help definitely improves your master's experience for sure. The next question is around the hardware resources that the students can get, because again, students ask a lot of questions that sometimes data science projects can be very computationally extensive. So do they need to buy a really expensive laptop so that they can manage things, or university will provide them some of the hardware resources?
So we don't expect students to have any special sort of computer, or don't buy a special high-end laptop or anything like that. It's useful if the student has a laptop, particularly because we're sort of computing based and do coding. But even if you don't, there are a lot of PCs around the university in the Learning Resource Centre, and we've at the University of Hertfordshire, our school Specs. We've got a brand new building at Spectra, we call it, and we have PCs in there that students can use. And it's a very nice building with sort of communal areas students can sit and talk, and also sort of talk to lecturers, and as well as access PCs. So there's plenty of PCs. If you need, if you're doing a project that requires a lot of computing, which generally would be an image-based, if you're doing something image-based, that tends to be quite computer intensive, then we do have a computing cluster that can be used, and sometimes students do use that.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I personally feel like if students can have exposure to some of these cloud resources as well, that helps them, because when we go to the organization or the industry, almost all the companies are now using these cloud-based clusters, so they will get used to using those things as well. So while having a powerful PC on premise is good, but having some kind of cloud resources are also definitely a lot help, just to get used to like how to use, how to navigate through different resources. So that's good to know.
A lot of our students and some of our modules, we just use Google Colab as well.
Right? Yeah, that's good to know. It was one of my favorites when I was in my master's.
It makes it easy for our teaching, because then all the students are using the same software. They don't have to download the software onto their laptop, which can always be an issue. And it has sort of the latest versions of things, and they're using the same versions. So that makes it nice and simple. And it does mean that they can access it anywhere with any PC or their laptop, or
Even on their tablets if they want.
their tablets, or whatever it is.
Exactly. That's good to know. The next question is around programming language. So you initially touched on like for people who are not really comfortable with programming, those things are also covered. So what are the different programming languages that might be covered in? Python and R are probably the most popular ones in the world of data science. So yeah, which programming languages are going to be taught?
We teach Python. We used to do some R, but I mean, the program is quite intensive as it is, so we now just stick to Python. We also do some SQL.
Yeah.
Just something with databases and SQL, so that our students sort of know the basics of databases.
Yeah, I think combination of Python and SQL should get students covered from all aspects, because on my daily basis, I use either Python or SQL. Apart from that, I'd never felt the need to use any other programming language. So I think if those things are covered, I think students should be very well comfortable in the industry.
Sorry, R tends to be for statistics and statistical stuff. And you can write R within Python as well. If you need something statistical, you can add that within a Python code.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, if we shift our focus a little bit on the career side, internship, and things like that. So the first question, or the most popular question that usually I receive, is if a student is doing their master's and if they want to find, let's say, a part-time job or internship as a teaching assistant or research assistant, are those kind of opportunities popular, or if they're available for master students?
So if for a placement or internship, as it's sometimes called, but I'll just call it a placement, the students are expected to find their own placement. So they're not given a placement, and it's hard. It's as hard as finding a job. I would say 20 to 25% of our students find a placement who want a placement. So you're more likely not to get a placement if you're on the placement course than get one.
Right.
Because it's difficult to find one. It comes back to what we were saying about what's useful for a job: communication and teamwork. So having good communication skills in applying for a placement is really what will help get a placement. The other thing I would say that helps get a placement is students who have got experience in other areas, and that you need to put that on your CV, because that can get you a job. So, for example, we had somebody who was on the course who'd been doing HR before. And actually, they got a placement because the company wanted to develop an HR package. And so
Exactly.
they had some skills. They had some computing skills and HR skills, which is exactly what they were looking for. And we've had quite a few students like that, where their previous experience that might be nothing to do with IT or computing actually is what gets them into the job or the placement.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point, and even I talk about these things quite a lot in live Q&As. That sometimes people say that when they're coming from a different background, it could be from health sector or finance sector, or as you mentioned, HR side, they think that they are at a disadvantage as compared to someone who is come from a technical background. But I argue the otherwise. You have some domain knowledge, and data science is not just about technical skills. It requires a lot of domain knowledge as well. And if you're coming from a different background, you have a very good domain knowledge over the people who just have technical skills. So if you have technical skills now that you have done masters, now you have gained technical skills, and previously have worked in particular sector, so you have domain knowledge as well. So when you combine both of them, you are actually a lot better package than someone who just has technical skills. So that's a really good point that you mentioned there. Moving on to the next question, which is around again internships. So what do you think is the right time that students should start to apply for internships? Well, we'll talk about it in two phases. The first one, students without placement year, and the students with placement year. So first, let's talk about students who have not opted for placement. So what should be the right time they should start applying for internship?
Okay, so it can take easily 6 to 12 months to find a job or an internship. So if you're on a 1-year course, you should start planning for that right from the beginning. And that could be just preparing your CV, preparing how you could answer some questions of an interview, looking what's in the job market, looking for adverts, seeing what's out there for internships, for jobs, for placements, whatever it is. Just starting that process as soon as you can. And then you start to know what is out there, and also what you're interested in. You start seeing things, and some things you think, oh, I'm really not interested in that. But others are, yeah, I am. Then you can sort of start narrowing down what you're going to be looking for. And that takes a lot of time and work. So the earlier you can start it, do a little bit each week or something, then the better. Rather than waiting until you think, all right, I need to do something now, and then having to do everything all at once. It can take a long time to develop a good CV. And my recommendation is always use the Careers Centre and as much help from other people as well. Get them to look at your CV. Get help from the careers people to improve it as much as possible. The first few drafts you do of it won't be good enough.
True. Yeah, especially for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience and just starting things out, it can be daunting. And even with some experience, because when I was doing my master's, I had like 3 years of experience, but still I was not really that good at writing a CV because it's a completely different game. So I made use of career service team, and that's a very good advice. People should definitely make use of that. That's why they are there, because they are good at it and they can certainly help you build your CV.
Absolutely.
Makes
And
sense.
if you're on the placement course, well, if you're on a 2-year course, you might want to wait a year and then start thinking about it a year into the course. What I find is students don't even think about applying for a job till the end of the course. So they've got their certificate. They think, oh, I can't do anything until I've got my certificate. No, that's not true.
True, exactly.
You should have everything ready and start applying well in advance of that. And then because in your CV, and you'll be saying, I won't be getting my course won't finish till whatever date it is, so they'll know when you apply.
True. Yeah, that makes sense. So let's say someone is on a placement year or they have a placement year. What happens if they are not able to secure a placement? As you mentioned, only 25% of the students are able to. What happens to the course length? And I'm sure there are some visa requirements as well on that side. So how exactly that thing is happened? Because when they enroll for the course, they enroll for 1 year course and then a placement year course. So they are enrolling for a 2 year course. And if they are not able to find the placement, then what happens to that?
Okay, they get transferred to the 2-year advanced research course. So in addition, so we have 3 courses. We have the 1-year MSc Data Science, the 2-year MSc Data Science with placement, and then the 2-year MSc Data Science with advanced research. So instead of them being on a placement, you'll do more advanced, effectively machine learning techniques and statistical techniques for analyzing data. And so I know students can be disappointed if they don't get a placement, but actually on the advanced research course, students will learn much more advanced data science and machine learning than they would on a placement. A lot of the placements, you learn a lot about being on a job, doing scrum meetings and, agile, working and things like that. Companies tend to be quite conservative in the jobs that they will give placement students because they need to give them something that's not too risky for them. So they don't tend to be doing sort of cutting edge machine learning data science. There might be a lot of data engineering or visualization, that type of thing. Some students do some machine learning. A lot of ours don't tend to do that on a placement. But but in the advanced research, you will learn large language models and more advanced time series and more advanced computer vision work, and agentic AI and things like that is coming up, and whatever is new can start. That's a lot of where we would change what we're teaching to keep up with developments.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Do you think if someone has some experience, I don't know how much experience, let's say 2 years or 3 years of experience, and then there is another student who has just completed their bachelor's and now they are pursuing their master's, have you seen that people with some experience tend to get these internships and placements and jobs a lot more quicker as compared to someone who is straight out of the college? Or do you think it's kind of equal for both?
Quite a few people who are on placement get a job with that company. That is a good, so that is a good way to get a job. I think having some work experience in data science will help you get a job in data science. Now that might be as a part-time job, and our careers service will help students get a part-time job as well. An awful lot of part-time jobs aren't anything to do with data science, but you might be able to get something that's related. But so any experience in data science will help you.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So when students finish either MSc Data Science or MSc Data Science and Analytics, what are the typical job roles they usually take? Because as we know, the data science is such a vast and kind of like umbrella term for data analysts, data engineers, LLM engineers, things like that. So what are the typical kind of roles that students get?
I don't think there's a typical one because we have so many students, they go into all sorts of different things, including cybersecurity, for example. If they've got some experience in that before, they might go into that, the data science, just adding to what they were doing before. I would say a lot of them go into a data science team. So that might be starting just as sort of data engineer to start with and then working up to a data analyst. But some students go into a role of data scientist or data analyst straight away.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, this question that I have, it could be a difficult one because as there are so many students, I wanted to ask about the employment rate. So if let's say we have like 300 students enrolled in a course, on an average, how many students do you think usually get the employment?
Yeah, I can't really answer that because that depends on our students telling us where they end up. And actually, particularly with the international students, it can take a while, 6 months after they finish their course before they get the job in the data science, just because it can take that long once they've sorted their visa out. Not all, but so yeah, we don't tend to get those information, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it's understandable. I just wanted to put these questions out. Maybe we could get some answer, but it is definitely very difficult to answer. As you mentioned, there is a huge lag between finishing the course and then finding a job. So it's totally understandable. So those were some of the questions around career opportunities and career support. Now, if we move our focus a little bit on the student's background side of things, for example, we also talked about this very briefly that if you are coming from a different background, you can use that as an experience. But if we talk about, let's say, people coming from chemical engineering or mechanical engineering and they want to pursue masters in data science, how difficult will it be for them to pick things up? Because in mechanical engineering and chemical engineering as well, there's a bit of maths involved there. So they're already aware of those things. But then some people come from pharmaceutical background and things like that. So you did mention that university does provide support for them, but do they approach this course slightly different to someone who already has some experience in data science?
Well, this is where being a conversion course, I think, helps students who have a different academic background. So, as I say, we have this boot camp course that is specifically designed to help students who are from different backgrounds, and also students that maybe have not done any academic work for a while, maybe been in work and forgotten their maths that they did.
True, true.
So, and so that is designed to help those students get back into the academic world and get the right level of maths and help them with learning coding. Because one thing I think about coding, it's a different way of thinking. So us who do it all the time sort of forget what it was like to learn it. But actually, it can be quite hard to sort of rework your brain to think about a computing problem, because there's lots of different layers of thinking about computing problem. You've got to think about what the problem is, then turn that into sort of a list of decisions of how you're going to structure it, and then turn that into the syntax to make it actually work as code. So there's levels of thinking about it which you wouldn't have had to think in those sort of ways before. So it can, if you've never done any computing coding before, it can take a while for your brain to sort of suddenly go, yeah, I've refigured this and I can think about it. So what we find is students who perhaps have done no coding before can struggle in that first semester because they really struggle. They find the coding difficult. And I think that's because it just takes time to learn how to think in a way of a computer programmer. And once they've got over that hurdle, actually, then they're all right.
True,
So we
true.
try to help. What we do in that first semester is getting people across that hurdle.
True. Yeah. When you said that, it brought those memories back when I was learning to program. At some point, it was difficult to think how the program works and divide them into different steps and then solve them. So, yeah, it takes some time to get used to write a computer program because we think in a certain way, but then computers work in a different way. So, we have to think the way computers think. True. So, talking about some of the scholarships. So, if a student enrolls for a course, what are the different type of scholarships available for them? I know some of the scholarships are available at a much larger scale, like from governments, countries, and things like that. But then, what are the scholarships that university has to offer?
So I'm not an expert on the scholarships, and there are less scholarships for master's students and international master's students. But I did go on this morning to our our pages for scholarships, and there is a very long list of them. So, and some of them are regional dependents as well, South Asia or East Asia. There's particular scholarships that are available there, as you say, including your own government scholarships. So, I can't really sort of say what there is particular, but I would, as a student, definitely go on the scholarship pages of the university website and have a look, and there may be something in there that you could apply for.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. Because I have seen the university's page, there's a long list of
It's a lot.
scholarship. So if someone is interested in scholarship, they should definitely check out that page, and hopefully they will be able to find something that is more suitable for them. Now, if we shift our focus a little bit on the student life side of thing, I mean, I know this question would be more appropriate for the students themselves, but as you talk to so many of your students, you might be able to give us some insight into life in Hertfield, or students who are actually attending the university. Are they all living there, or do they come from a little bit far from as well? And how is the living experience there?
So Hatfield is about a 20-minute train drive from the centre of London. Train ride from the centre of London, and it's there. We have a lot of students. There's a good student life there. In terms of our international students, we have on campus, we have 2 campuses not very far from each other, and there are student accommodation. There's a lot of student accommodation on those campuses. So if you are in student accommodation, it's very close. I think we have a poster in the university saying 15 minutes from your bed to your lecture, which I always think is very good. I'd like that.
True. Yeah.
But actually, for our international students, an awful lot of them don't stay on student accommodation for whatever reason, and tend to be in the surrounding towns and villages, and would get buses into the university.
Right. Yeah. So commute is not a problem. I think they can still travel quite easily. Makes sense. We have reached to the last section, which is more like advice from your side and the kind of reflection looking at some of the things. So I would like to understand a bit about any kind of common mistakes that students might make during their course, and mistakes that they should absolutely avoid so that they can make most out of their master's course.
Okay, the first thing is attend all the classes. There is a direct correlation between attending the classes and passing and the grades that you're going to get. Because by attending, you're going to know what you need to do, you're going to know the content, you're going to practice the content in your PC labs, and you're much more likely to pass successfully with good grades. So attending all the classes right from the start. So attend the induction week. In our induction week, which starts next week, students are expected to be there every day, and we have something going on all day, every day. Go along to them as you find out what is happening in the program and what is expected from you. You will find out what the pitfalls are in terms of going wrong with your assessments. Referencing, I'll say that again.
True.
Referencing,
True.
but also using AI, ChatGPT, and how that can cause you to get academic misconducts and fail modules, things like that. So you'll get a lot of advice and help in those that induction week. So also attending induction week, really important to make friends, get to know people, because that can really support you. Because I think all students at some point, that it will be difficult. Something will happen, or you'll just feel overwhelmed by the amount of work, or something personal might happen. You'll need help, and having some friends and being supported by people around you can make a big difference. So those first weeks at university is when you'll get to know people, because everyone else is in the same boat, going to get to know people as well. So attend and talk to people and make some friends.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, and that can definitely improve their uh, master's experience for sure. We are almost at the end of some of the questions. And I'm going to ask this question. Where do you think the field of data science will go in next 5 to 10 years? I'm going to put you on spot. I know it's very difficult because we don't even know what's going to happen probably next year, the rate at which data science is moving. But if you think about from academic perspective, and if somebody wants to stay up to date and want to feel a bit comfortable, like data science is the field that I should choose, why should I choose it? Because it is moving so fast. How do I make sure that I'm on a right track? So, what do you think is the future of data science?
Well, it's definitely a growing field, and it's something that every organization needs and does do and is using now to a greater or lesser extent. So as a data scientist, you can go into any organization and improve how data is used within that organization. And I think as more and more organizations understand that, and with the growth of AI that is happening, data scientists are going to be more in demand. I mean, really, the field of machine learning and AI, that's just changing the field of data science. Large language models, generative AI, they are things that we teach and learn within data science because we use them. Large language models are the use of data, training up models of using data. That is data science.
I definitely agree. And if I speak from industry side of things, the team that I'm working in is a very small team in a very large organization, but with just few data scientists in the team, the kind of impact that we are making is huge. A lot of the business decisions are being made based on the analysis that we do, the models that we train, and the analysis that we perform. So I can definitely agree to the point that you mentioned that all the organization would need data scientists, AI engineers, and AI in general. So I think this is probably the best time to get into the world of data science and AI so that you can make your career more future proof. Of course, it requires a lot more staying up to date and a lot more effort from your side, like continuous learning. Continuous learning is one of the most important things here. So those things are there. But if you're someone who likes to learn things on daily basis, I think this is the right field.
I agree.
So those were all the questions that I had, Caroline, and thank you so much for taking some time to answer these questions. I'm sure this session is going to help so many students answer their questions, and I will probably reach out to you again if there are some other questions in the email, and hopefully if something which we have not covered here, I can get those information from you. Thank you so much for taking this time.
Okay, thank you, Roshan.